Okay. Identify your subconscious commitments. Part of the reason we often experience intense inner conflict or self-sabotage or self-sabotage is because of something called a core commitments, which is essentially your primary objective or intention for your life. Your subconscious commitments are basically what you want more than anything else, and you often are not even aware of them. You can identify your core commitments by looking at the things that you struggle with most, and the things you are most driven by. If you can peel back the layers of your motivations toward each, you will find a root cause. When you find the same root cause for everything, you have found a core commitment. People only seem irrational and unpredictable until you understand what they are fundamentally committed to. For example, if someone has a core commitment to feel free, they may find themselves sabotaging work opportunities in order to achieve that. If someone's core commitment is to feel wanted, they could find themselves in a series of relationships in which they have intense connections but refuse to make commitments out of fear that the spark will fade. If someone's core commitment is to be in control of their lives, they might have irrational anxiety about things that represent a loss of control. If someone's core commitment is to be loved by others, they might pretend to be helpless in certain areas of life, because if they don't need others, they might be left by them. But most important thing to understand is that core commitments are actually a cover up for core needs. Your core need is the opposite of your core commitment. Your core need is also another way to identify your purpose. For example, if your subconscious core commitment is to be in control, your core need is trust. If your subconscious core commitment is to be needed, your core need is to know you are wanted. If your subconscious core commitment is to be loved by others, your need is self-love. This this list that you feed your core need, the louder your core commitment symptoms will be. If you are a person who needs trust and is therefore committed to staying in control, the less that you believe you are supported, the more your negative coping mechanisms are going to flare up. Perhaps perhaps this could happen in the form of disruptive eating patterns, isolating yourself, or hyperfixation on physical appearance. If you are committed to freedom and therefore need a sense of autonomy, the 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 less that you build a life on your own terms, the more you are going to sabotage opportunities and feel drained and exhausted when you should feel happy. The more you lean into fulfilling your core needs, the more your commitment symptoms will disappear. Once you understand what a person really wants, you will able to explain the you will be able to explain the intricacies of their habits and behaviors. You will be able to predict down to the detail what they will do in any given situation. More importantly, once you start asking yourself what you really want, you will be you will be able to stop battling the symptoms and start addressing the only issue that ever really existed in your life, which is living out of alignment with your core needs, and therefore your core purpose. Comforting Converting repressed emotion in confer, confront, confronting repressed emotions and taking action. There is a difference between understanding why we self-sabotage and the act of no longer self-sabotaging. This means that once we understand the root and purpose of the behavior, we adjust it, we adapt it. Overcoming self-sabotage is not just a matter of understanding why you are holding yourself back. It is being able to take action in the direction that you want and need to, even even if it is initially uncomfortable or triggering. This is a very important part of the process, because you are essentially going to be confronting the exact emotions you have been trying to avoid. When you stop when you stop engaging in self-sabotaging behavior, repressed repressed emotions that you are not even aware of will start to come up, and you might feel even worse than you did before. The thing the, the thing the, the thing about overcoming self-sabotage is that we don't often need to be told what to do. We know what we want to do, and we know what we need to do. It is simply that we are being held back by our fear of feeling, to unravel this emotional holding pattern. We can work through the following to find more ease and space and freedom while we change our lives. Now, the most common emotions that arise while you are breaking self-sabotaging behaviors. The first feeling you are likely to confront is resistance. This is that generalized sense of being stuck, or your body feeling so tense that it is almost hard, as though you are hitting a wall. This feeling is usually making emotions that is preventing you from actually being aware of the sensations beneath it beneath it, which are more acute. When you start to feel resistance, you don't want to just push through it. In fact, trying to do that means you will keep hitting the same wall that you are up against already. You are going to strengthen the self-sabotaging behavior, because you are not really solving the problem by just trying to override it. Instead of start asking the right questions. Why do I feel this way? What is this feeling trying to tell me about the action I am trying to take? Is there something I need to learn here? What do I need to honor my needs right now? Then 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 you then you have to reconnect to your inspiration, or your vision for life. Get clear on why you want to take this action and make a change. When your motivation is the fact that you want to live different and better existence, you are going to find that a lot of resistance fades. Lots of resistance fades, because you are being pushed by a vision that's greater than your fear. In other cases, you might run into other emotions such as anger, sadness, and inadequacy. When those feelings come up, it is very important to make space for them. This means to allow them to rise up in your body and observe them. Watch where they make you tense up or constrict. Feel what they want to feel. There is nothing worse than the fear of feeling that the emotion, as the experience itself is ultimately often just some physical tension around which we have crafted a story. Remember that a lot of these feelings may very well have a root in something related to the self-sabotaging behavior. If you are angry about how one of your parents treated you, it's probably won't come as a surprise that the core feeling of why you are sabotaging your relationships is anger and mistrust. The feelings associated with self sabotage are not usually random. In fact, they can lead us. In fact, they can lead us to deeper insights about what we really need and what problems within us are still unresolved. To fully release those feelings once you are aware of them, try writing yourself a letter. Write something to your younger self or from the perspective of your future self. Write down a mantra of manifesto. Remind 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 yourself that you love yourself too much to settle for less, or that it is okay to be angry in unfair or frustrating circumstances. Give yourself space to experience the depth of your emotions so that they don't control your behaviors. Disconnecting action and feeling. The final and most important lesson to overcome self-sabotage is to learn to disconnect action from feeling. We are not we are not held back sorry we are not held back in life because we are incapable of making change. We are held back because we don't feel like making change, and so we don't. The truth is that you can have a vision of what you want, know that it is undoubtedly right for you, and simply not feel like taking the action required to pursue that path. This is because our feelings are essentially weird as comfort systems. They produce a good feeling when we are doing what we have done always, staying in familiarity. This this sorry this to our bodies registers as safety. In other cases, the accomplishments of changes that we are very happy about are those that we also preserve to offer us a greater measure of safety. If the achievement potentially puts us at risk in any way, or exposes us to something unfamiliar, we are not going to be happy about it initially, even if it is a net positive for our lives. However, we can actually train ourselves to prefer behaviors that are good for us. This is how we thi- this is how we restructure our comfort zones. We being to crave what we repeatedly do, but the first few times we do it, we often feel uncomfortable. The trick is being able to override that initial hesitation, so that we are we are guiding ourselves sorry so we are guiding ourselves so we are guiding our lives with logic and reason, not emotional. Though your though your emotion sorry though your emotions are always valid and need to validate it, they are hardly ever an accurate measure of what you're capable of in life. They are not always an accurate reflection of reality. All your feelings know all your feelings know is what you have done in the past, and they are attached to what they have drawn comfort from. You may feel as though you are worthless, but you most certainly are not. You may feel as though there is no hope, but there most certainly is. You may feel as though everyone dislikes you, but that is probably a crossover exaggeration. You may think everyone is judging you, but that is a misconception. Sorry, mis misperception. But that is misperception. Most importantly, you may as though you cannot take action when you most certainly can. You simply do not feel willing because you are not used to it. By using logic and vision to guide ourselves, we are able to identify a different and better experience. When we imagine this, we feel peaceful and inspired to meet this version of our lives. We must overcome our resistance and discomfort. We will not feel happy initially, no matter how right for us those actions are. It is essential that you learn to take action before you feel like doing it. Taking action builds momentum and creates motivation. This feelings will not come to you, not come to you spontaneously. You have to generate them. You have to inspire yourself. You have to move. You have to simply begin and allow yourself and your energy to re to reorient itself, to prefer the behaviors that are going to move your life forward, not the ones that are keeping you held back. Chapter 3. Your triggers are the guides to your freedom. Now, now that now that you have begun to identify your self-sabotaging behaviors, you can use them to uncover deeper and more important truths about who you are as a person, and what you really want and need out of life. This is an important part of process, because overcoming our self-defeating habits is not just about knowing what they are, why we engage in them. It is also about better understanding what our inherent needs are what we really desire, and how we can use this as a pivot point to building a life that is aligned with who we really are and what we are here to do. Our triggers don't actually exist just to show us where we are storing unresolved pain. In fact, they show us something much deeper. Each negative emotion we experience comes with a message. One that we don't yet know how to interpret. This is when a single challenge beings to become a chronic issue. Unable to honor and use the guidance of the emotion, we shut the feeling down, store it in our bodies, and try to avoid anything that might bring it up again. This is when we become sensitive to the world around us, because there are a lot of repressed feelings mounting. On the surface, it seems as though the thing that triggers our emotional response response is the problem. It is not. The problem is that we don't know what to do with how we feel, and therefore don't have all of the emotional processing skills that we need. When we can when we can identify why something is triggering us, we can use the experience as a catalyst for for a release and positive life change. How to interpret how sorry how to interpret negative emotions. Though though everyone's particular triggers are unique to them, it helps to better understand the function of some of the feelings that we often condemn. Some of the emotions that are most strongly connected with self-sabotaging behaviors are actually important for us to better understand. It is not about simply getting over them, it is about listening to what they are trying to tell us about our experience. Now, anger. Anger is beautiful. Anger. Anger is beautiful transformative emotion. It is mischaracterized by its by its shadow side, aggression, and therefore we try to resist it. It is healthy to be angry, and anger can also show us important aspects of who we are and what we care about. For example, anger shows where our boundaries are. Anger also helps us identify what we find to be unjust. Ultimately, anger is trying to mobilize us to mobilize us to initiate action. Anger is transformative, and it is often to peak state we reach before we truly change our lives. This is because anger is not initiated to be projected onto someone else. Rather, it is an influx of motivation that helps us to change what we need to change within our lives. When we do not see it as such, we tend to bury it, not ever resolving the real issue at hand. This is when anger starts to cross over into aggression. When we take that energy out on those around us as opposite to using it as an impetus to change ourselves. Instead of being afraid of anger, we can instead use it to help us see our limits and priorities more clearly. We can also use it to help us make big important changes, both for ourselves and the world around us. Sadness. Sadness is the normal and correct response to lose of something you very much love. This is an emotion that often comes that that often comes up in the aftermath of a disappointment. This could be the loss of a relationship or a job, or just a general idea of what you thought your life would be. Sadness only becomes problematic when we do not allow ourselves to go through the natural phases of grief. Sadness does not release itself all at once. In fact, we often find that it happens in waves, some of which strike us at unexpected times. We do not we do, we do not even sorry we do not ever need to feel embarrassed or wrong for needling to cry, feel down, or miss that we no longer have. In fact, crying at appropriate times is one of the biggest signs of mental strength, as people who are struggling often find it difficult to release their feelings and be vulnerable. Next is guilt. Guilt, guilt, sorry, guilt, guilt. Guilt tends Guilt tends to affect us more for what we didn't do than what we did. In fact, In fact, people who struggling the most with guilt are the people who are not actually guilty for something terrible. People who commit pu- people who commit heinous acts tend to not feel much remorse. The fact that you feel bad that you could have done wrong by someone is a good sign in itself. However, guilt requires to guilt. However, guilt requires us to look deeply at what behaviors, if any, we feel badly about, as well as what we many have done that was not in our best interest. If we have we have treated other unfairly, we must be able to admit, apologize, and correct that behavior. However, if the feeling of guilt is more generalized and not specifically relating to anyone in any one incident, we need to look closely at who or what made us always feel as though we were wrong or inconveniencing others. Guilt guilt is guilt is often an emotion we carry from childhood and then project onto current circumstances when we felt as though we were burdens to those around us. Now next is embarrassment. Embarrassment is what we feel when we know that we do not behave in a way that we are proud of. Other people can never make us feel as embarrassed as we make ourselves feel. When when you're truly and completely confident that you are doing the best you can with what you have in front of you, you stop feeling embarrassed all the time. Sure, sure, others can make you feel bad with their comments or ideas, but even their worst judgments tend to be naturalized when we accept ourselves and feel proud of who we are. Shame is the shadow side of embarrassment. This is when the this is when the natural occasional feeling of being embarrassed turns into a way for us to completely condemn ourselves as human beings, and being to see ourselves as worthless and invalid. When we do not process the feeling of embarrassment, it tends to turn into something far darker. Now the next emotional trait is jealousy. Jealousy is a cover up emotion in presence as anger or judgment, when in reality it is sadness and self dissatisfaction. If you want to know what you truly want out of life, look at the people who you are jealous of. No, you may not want exactly what they have, but the feeling that you are experiencing is anger that they are allowing themselves to pursue it while you are not. While we use our jealousy to judge other people's accomplishments, we are sliding into its shadow function. We when we use our jealousy to show us what we would like to accomplish, we begin to recognize self-sabotaging behavior and get ready to commit to what we actually desire. You can think of it is this way. When we see someone who has something we really want, but we are suppressing our willingness to pursue it. We must also condemn it in them, so we can justify our own course of action. Instead of this, we can see what we would also like to create. Now, resentment. When we resent people, when When we resent people, it is often because they did not live up to the expectation of them what we had in our minds. Resentment, resentment, resentment in some ways is like a projected regret. Instead of trying to show us what we should change, it seems to want to tell us what other people should change. However, other people are under no obligation to live up to our ideas of them. In fact our only problem is that we have an unrealistic expectation that someone was meant to be exactly as we think they should exactly we exactly as we think they should, or love us exactly as we imagined they would. When 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 we really when we release the ideas we have about who they should be, we can see them for who they are, and the role they are meant to play in our lives. Instead of focusing on how they should change, we focus instead on what we can learn. Till then, assalamu alaikum.